There here, of course, is more platoon, and there is a section, headquarters section, and they have placed themselves just on the south side of this hill that the Russians are going to be going around on the south side. There's also a big patch of woods over here. The Soviets want to clear these woods before they send the rest of their units off the board. They have a headquarters tank right here. And that right there is covering this line of woods, covering that woods. Over here they have the infantry that are gonna, over here they have the infantry that are gonna sweep the woods. And the rest of the vehicles are just providing cover. These BMP-2s are providing cover over here. And here's some units right here that are just covering the front side of the woods. So basically, we're going to do a sweep through the woods to get whatever units there, because if the Soviets send the units through this route, they're going to be vulnerable. The backside's going to be vulnerable from whatever units are in these woods or below it, which is the case of this Bradley right here. So that's where we are. Let's go forward. NATO has 1 command, 2 units. Soviet has 9 commands. There's no issue for the Soviets as far as command span, because all units are within 6 hexes of the command unit. So I'm going to place commands. This Bradley is going to have Overwatch. It's looking ahead of it right here. Right. So this is where the Bradleys are looking. The Bradley is looking for Soviet vehicles to come by and for it to take a rear shot with its toes. This is the movement for all 3 of the units, the infantry units that are going to do the sweep of the woods. And the vehicles that are just waiting are going to be an Overwatch over here. Everybody else basically is going to be an Overwatch, except for this unit. And that's the headquarters 2S1. They have headquarters heavy artillery. I think I'm going to send them down the side of the woods over here. And I might also send these 2 units right here, these 2 tanks. Or I might move them off the board. Let's see what I do. Initiative. NATO has 37. Soviets have 19. NATO wins to a +20 unique unit quality modifier. There's no indirect fire. NATO has direct fire, has none. Soviets have no direct fire. So movement phase. NATO doesn't have any moves. Soviet has all the moves. Here we go. So now I'm moving the infantry into position to do the sweep through the woods. And we have to check because the 2 units that weren't suppressed did quick march. So I have to see if they did quick march suppression. 1 through 15 will be suppressed. 1 is suppressed and the other one is not suppressed. Right there. Now here comes these 2 tanks over here. They're coming down the east side of this patch of woods. And there's that self-propelled, there's a heavy artillery that's going to cover the east side of the woods. And the infantry are going to go through the woods and come down the east side of the woods. They're going to go through the woods on the east side. They're going to sweep the woods, find whatever's back there. Okay, so that's it for movement. We're doing suppression recovery now. And that would be the suppression recovery for the unit that was right here. The other unit already had its suppression recovery flip from off on to off. Just want to make sure the suppression marker is in the right place. Oops. Oops and oops. Okay, so I need 60 or less, but there's a plus 20 die roll modifier because I had a move command rather than no command. I roll 17, so it is recovered, the suppression recovered. Suppression marker will be removed. There, nobody is spotted that wasn't previously spotted. That's the end of turn 11. We are going to begin turn 12. Okay, so now here's turn 12. And making sure that those units were facing in the right direction. So they couldn't have gone backwards. And this is just a little bit of board cleanup. So NATO has 1 command, Soviet have 9 commands. Those 2 tanks right there on the western edge of the woods, just outside the woods, they're going to stay there and do overwatch. I'm going to send the heavy artillery vehicle down that side of the woods. Meanwhile, the infantry are advancing through the woods. And this is just one final clear. They're clearing out that woods so I can send the rest of the Soviet units off the board. They get a move command. Everybody else gets an overwatch command. Okay. NATO gets a 64. Soviets gets a 6. Soviet wins. NATO moves. NATO has no moves. There was no fire, either direct or indirect fire. Soviet moves. Let's go down here, take a look. So over here, I'm beginning to move. As you see, I'm beginning to move the Soviet units into the woods. That suppressed unit can only move 1 hex. The other units can try to do a quick march. And here they're going through the woods. So now the Soviet units are in the west side of that patch of woods. The forward Soviet units have seen the Bradley. They also know that the woods is clear, other than the Bradley at the south, just to the south of the woods. So the Bradley spotted. And the lead infantry unit over there is spotted. However, the only unit that's spotted right now is for the Soviets is that one squad that's in the wood line next to the Bradley. And the only unit that's spotted for the Soviets is the American Bradley. The Bradley is in Overwatch. Now I'm going to complete the moves. And right there is that right there is the heavy artillery, which I'm sending down on the west side of the woods. It goes right in front of the Bradley. Range of 1. Brad fires armor-piercing Scar and Sabot, has no acquisition, front side facing, point blank range, moving target -2, Overwatch -1, laser sights +2. The Bradley actually doesn't have laser sights. I don't know where that comes from. Bradley has the toes. The toes don't work. That would be an extreme range. You'd be lucky to get a shot with the toe, because the closer a unit is to the toe, the toe missile basically needs to fly a little bit to knock onto its target. That's why I'm firing kinetic energy against that unit that just came in front of me. 2 hits, 81. I roll an 88, so it's a miss. and I gain target acquisition. 88s, okay. And there's just something called rapid rate of fire. What that does is if you fire at a hex with more than one unit, or a hex with the unit in it, and then other hexes around it have units, and you get a hit, you may get other hits on units around that vehicle, but no hit. That doesn't work. And that is it. That is the only thing that happened this turn. So we're on to turn 13. I'm placing commands. Bradley is going to fire at that heavy artillery. The Soviet unit that's next to the Bradley is in the rear side of that Bradley, is going to fire against the Bradley, so I'm giving him a fire command. The other infantry are going to move forward into that wood line to attack the Bradley. Now that the two tanks know that the Bradley is there, they're going to go forward. They were either going to go forward to attack the Bradley or at least start leaving the board. Okay, I forgot to do suppression recovery at the end of last turn, so this is suppression recovery for that infantry unit in the woods. You know, 1 through 50 for suppression recovery, but I have a +20 die roll modifier, so that unit is still suppressed. Here's turn 13. And the other units that aren't involved in they're just going to do Overwatch for the Russians. 52 to 40, NATO wins, no indirect fire, NATO direct fire. That right there would be the Bradley against the headquarters heavy artillery unit. Right there, this is all about that wood patch. The Bradley's going to be point blank, armor piercing, discarding sabot ammo. And it's an acquired target. When that unit, I just interned that unit. But when that unit moved, it would have had its last turn, and it would have turned so that the front faced the Bradley. But the shot that the Bradley took would have been at a front side facing. So, last turn. Target acquisition, +1 row shift modifier. +2 row shift modifier. Again, the Bradleys do not have laser sights. I can take a look. But if you look at the 25mm, they just have optical sights, and they can track with their, I believe they can track with their 25mm, I believe. So going one that actually, because you don't have the laser sight, that would have been yeah, it still would have been 99. 31 hits. We got the base penetration is 12. The modifier is going to be +2, so the net penetration is 14. Location damage roll. Turret front. Penetration 14. The turret front ammo for that S21 heavy artillery gun, heavy artillery vehicle, is only 5, 14 to 5, and that brews up. And I'll put a brew up marker over there. Now that Soviet unit that's in the wood line is going to fire on that Bradley in the open. Light anti-tank weapon, point blank range, rear side aspect, need a 91 to hit. Hits. First, I want to check availability. Available. I rolled a 4, so it's available. Location damage roll. $53. Hull side hit, penetration 14. Minus the armor is 11 for a hull side hit for Bradley. We're going to check the penetration modifier. So the penetration modifier is +1. So the penetration is 15. The armor is 11, and it's a hit. Hull damage, check for bail, and the crew bails out. that's it for that unit. So the crew bails out. After it bails out, it's in suppressed state. Mark that unit, that engineer squad that fired on them with a target. Passengers bail. Actually, it wasn't the LAW, it was an RPG-22 that hit. The LAW, the Americans have those. So now I'm moving the other infantry unit into that wood line to face that to face the Bradley that was hit and the Bradley crew. Actually, yeah, no, the Bradley was hit, the crew bailed, and the Bradley was hit, hull damage, the crew bailed. So I should put bail marker on the Bradley, and then their passengers also bailed because the crew bailed. Okay. There's the tank. Now my other units are starting to leave, are headed toward, those two tanks are headed on the south side of Alpha 1 Village and that hill to go off the board. And now I move the command markers and we go into turn 14. Turn 14, and I didn't do suppression again. You gotta remember to do suppression at the end of the turn. But I didn't check for suppression removal. Let's see if I catch it. Yep. So 1 through 50, and it's removed, but there's a plus 20 die roll modifier that remains suppressed. And the unit, the unit that's being carried by the Bradley gets that suppression on, flip to suppression off. And they're going to be put under full cover, which I should have did last turn. So NATO has 1 command, Soviet has 9 commands. We're in turn 14. That suppressed crew that suppressed section is going to take a fire command. The other NATO units are going to take an overwatch command. And all the other Soviet units are leaving the board. NATO wins initiative. There's no indirect fire, direct fire phase, and NATO units are going to fire back. That suppressed section that was in that Bradley is going to fire back against the unit it sees, 2 units it sees in the tree, well, 1 unit sees in the tree line. The GP offense is 2. The GP defense for the section is going to be 2 plus medium cover plus 4. And the unit firing suppressed. So, oh yeah, okay. GP offense is 2, GP defense is 8 because of the cover. I need 78 to suppress, 104 to be effective. And the shooter suppressed, so there's a minus 20 die roll modifier. 70 minus 20, so that's going to have it's going to be a net 52, no effect. Now the only other fire we have is that those 2 squads firing back, Russian squads firing back against the American squads. It's going to be GP offensive 7, GP defensive 4. Suppression, if it's 40 or more, and it's effective, and I will eliminate them if it's 71 or more. 7, no effect. Now there's another unit there, 35 is no effect. Now there's 1 more squad there, and it's a squad that is in the wood line that's firing at the Bradley, and they're suppressed. Not the Bradley, but the passengers that were aboard the Bradley, and it's the firing unit suppressed. So minus 20, no effect. So the American unit survives, and all the Russian units survive over there. No move command. Oh, now the move commands. And the Soviets are headed off the board. Here we go. I'm getting rid of the turret markers because if the turrets are facing forward, you don't need them. Soviets are lining up to leave the board. Now we have the suppression removal stage. So both units over here in the corner are suppressed. Soviets, 1 through 50 with +1 die roll, and they don't recover. And the Americans need 1 through 60 with +20 die roll modifier, and they don't recover, so they're still suppressed. So except for those 3 infantry units that don't have their transport, they are stuck in a firefight with the remaining American section. Of course, everybody in that little melee gets a fire command. NATO has a net 21 initiative. Soviets have a 39 initiative. Soviets win and fire first. They're going to fire. They're going to have 2 rolls firing at that recon section for the Americans. Their offense is going to be 7 against the defense is going to be 4. Suppression 40 or greater, the effects 71 or greater, and you get 2 rolls with no, actually there's 2 rolls with no die roll modifier, and then they have 1 roll with a -20 die roll modifier. So that eliminates the American unit, American section. Bye-bye. So that ends the fire phase. Now we have the move phase. Now Soviets move. Now the 2 American units that are hiding behind the hill are going to fire. The section is going to fire its anti-tank weapon, LAW. Moving target -2, Overwatch -1, so it's going to be a point blank range with a row adjust of -3 rows. I need an 8 or less to be available, to have that ammo available. Penetration factor is 60, 63 to hit. So 90's a miss. Next, I have the M106, the mortar unit, and it can have no effect against T80 because it's a mortar unit and you can't fire at a hex right next to it. So you have the mortar and then the machine gun, and the machine gun wouldn't affect the T80. So now I'm going to draft fire with that mortar unit, because now it's firing against a soft skin target. So it's going to be M1, the mortar unit against BKR 70, but the mortar unit is not using its mortar. What is it actually using? The 106. It's actually will be using its GP. Oh, that's the mortar. Yeah, it's GP medium machine gun. So it has a chance to do damage.